Welcome back to Good Morning La La Land. We are so honored to have Areva Martin, rainmaker, attorney extraordinaire, bringing everyone's voice to the world. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I know you are a very busy woman. How do you stay balanced? I mean, you're making it rain, you're a lawyer, you're an author.
I talked earlier about my runs. My runs are really important to me. They help me feel, energized. They give me the energy I need for this super busy schedule that I have, and particularly with the book now. I've been traveling a great deal. I have 10 or 12 different cities I've been going to as a part of this Make It Rain tour. But I think exercise, try to eat healthy, cheat a little. Just cheat a little.
Okay.
Just cheat a little. Surround yourself with good people, positive people. They, help energize you. So that's how I think I keep it all balanced. And some days, let's face it, it's not balanced. Right?
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about making it rain. First of all, obviously you have American colors on here, which is it's very poignant in a time in history what's going on. And you talk about basically how to use media to basically have a voice. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm a TV talk show host and commentator, and I spent about 2 years, I think, on cable television and network television talking about police brutality and what was going on in some cities around this country with policing. And people started reaching out to me saying, hey, these are issues I care about. How can I jump into these conversations? How can I have a voice on these issues? And I found myself writing a lot of emails and responding to people. And I said, maybe I need to just share what I know about how I've used the media to be a part of conversations that are important to me and to promote things that are important to me. And that was really the impetus for the book. And since I've been an entrepreneur all my life, my publisher and I decided to make the book broader. So although it speaks to those activists and advocates who were originally speaking to me, it also is for the business owner, the entrepreneur, the person that has a product or a service that they want to promote to a larger audience. How do you take your voice? How do you first find your authentic voice? Because that's the first step.
Right.
And then grow your platform in a way that allows you to connect with people that your voice resonates with. That's what Making It Rain is all about.
Mm-hmm. Just incredible. I love that, and such a beautiful cover, but
Thank you.
Beautiful book inside and out, like you. And I wonder, what tips might you have for people that, like you, want to make it rain and they want to use media as an instrument to do so?
Well, first, like I said, you have to find your voice. What is your voice? And there's a lot of noise out there. So as you all know, this show is on social media, and there's a lot of noise on social media. So you've got to have an authentic voice that resonates with people, because otherwise it gets lost. So I take people through an exercise in the book in terms of how they find their voice, looking at their prior experiences, their educational background, and ultimately their passion. Because for your voice to be authentic, it has to come from a place, a real place inside of you. It has to be that thing that makes you want to get up every morning and pursue it, because if not, people are really savvy, on social media. They can peep whether someone is really authentic or not. So I take you through that exercise, and then I help you figure out where are the people that are most likely to resonate, with you, who are going to connect with you, who want to follow you. And using some of those exercises help you ultimately grow your platform.
Areva, I'm wondering, how did you personally find your voice?
It happened for me. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids, and my youngest son, Marty, was diagnosed with autism. And although I was a lawyer and I'd been practicing for many years before his diagnosis, it was really his diagnosis that I think helped me crystallize my voice as an advocate. I was devastated, like a lot of parents, when I learned of my son's diagnosis. And quickly I had to go from that place of devastation to this place of advocacy, where I had to, figure out this complex system of care and get him the best education and medical resources. And in doing so, I met so many other parents who were on a similar struggle to find the best in care for their kids. And it was through that process of, helping those other parents, helping my own son, that I realized that there were people who, were voiceless in this autism community, particularly in low-income communities, communities of color. And so I found myself speaking out for those communities and being the voice for them. And that's when I think I really understood the power of media and the power of using your voice to help people outside of even your own local community. So now I speak nationally about autism and related causes. I've raised millions of dollars for autism and related causes. So I think for me, that was probably that crystallizing moment.
So I have a question, because I feel like as a doctor of divinity, knowing universal law and knowing that what we put out there has to come back. And a lot of the issue with some of the movements right now is that making others wrong, it's just a big cycle. It's a big vicious cycle that's going to make us wrong back, and it's just going to make the cycle prevail. So my question is this, is if I want to have a voice in the world, but have it in a positive sense, how do I do that? Because most people just like drama. Let's face it. Entertainment is drama. And if we don't have drama, then it's not going to necessarily be heard. But yet, we don't want to have the drama because there's not a true, authentic voice.
Well, first of all, doctor, you're already, exuding such positivity, right? And you're an example of how you can have a voice. You're on this talk show, you're talking to millions of viewers every day, and you're speaking to them about something really positive. So I agree with you that a lot of people do like drama, but there are a lot of really positive people like yourself, like all of you, who are doing great things and using the media in a positive way. So I don't buy into that you have to be, the person that's throwing stuff and calling everybody, a bitch or whatever. I think you can, talk about things that are important, talk about raising people up, lifting people up, and being the person in that room, the sane person, the person that is exuding positivity. And I think you're going to find a lot of people who that message will resonate with. Obviously, you guys have, and I think lots of other people can do the same.
Amen to that. We received that fully.
It's a beautiful thing to have community. I'm wondering who lifts you up? Who raises you?
Well, my family, I have this amazing family. We're really close because we are not only related by blood, but we also run several businesses together. My daughter's now my business manager. So if I want to write a check, I have to write her email.
That's
And she's
great.
like, Mom, your account is getting low. And I'm like, okay, you're the daughter, not my business manager today.
That's right.
Don't tell me how to spend my money. but I'm really fortunate. I have this really close family, and we lift each other up. We have our little family text group, and we have to have we started this thing of a good news report because my husband was adamant, we always want, what's wrong in our day. We're going to start telling each other every day something that happened positive. So throughout the day, someone will text something
Love
like,
that.
hey, I just got A on my kids are in college. I just got an A on, my report I wrote, or my paper, or, I'm on a book tour. So yesterday I got an order for 300 books. I'm going to speak to this bank. They want me to do a big teleconference with them, and they're going to purchase 300 of my books in advance. I'm like, hey, I just sold 300 books. And all I have to do is get on a 30-minute telephone call from my pajamas at home. So that's what So we just try to share those positive things in the midst of all the stressful things from being a business owner that happens, and there are lots of stressful things that happen. And we just try to cut through some of that and focus on some of the good things that are happening.
Oh, I think
that.
that's so vital, especially in the family dynamic, because so often, even in conversations I have personally with my family, it's just, everything that's wrong. And then my mom will start worrying, and then she'll tell my dad. And then, it's a vicious cycle. To be able to really celebrate positivity in the family dynamic is priceless.
Yeah, we do. We just we like your family, there's a lot of moaning and, whining going on too sometimes, but we just made a point on this group chat to share something positive that's happening. And maybe it's like families used to get together for dinner. You remember, everyone
Now we get together for
That
text.
doesn't happen anymore because our lives are so busy. So now it's the group text that's replaced the family dinner where we share information.
I love that. So I want your viewpoint on Time's Up and Me Too movement. What do you think's going on? How can people, step up their game and make it happen?
Well, you guys mentioned that I'm a lawyer, so I spent most of my legal career being a civil rights attorney and representing women actually who have been involved in sexual harassment lawsuits, and I've been really out front in the Me Too movement. I've written a lot about it. I've talked a lot about it on television, and it's something really personal to me because I myself have been slut shamed. Which is not the same as someone who's been abused or harassed. I want to make sure that I'm clear about that. But there is something I think that happens to a lot of women, from being slut shamed to actually being physically assaulted, and the movement draws attention to that. And even beyond that, I had an opportunity to speak to 400 CEOs at one of my speaking events, and they were trying to figure out how can they, as CEOs, change the climate in their country, in their companies. So for me, the Me Too movement is about making the workplace safe, but it's also about addressing the issues of the imbalance of power. Because we know that in order for workplaces to really be safe, we've got to deal with women who still make less than men for the same jobs. We just had Equal Pay Day yesterday, where we, highlighted and raised awareness about the inequities that still exist in wages. We have to talk about the lack of women, particularly women of color, in the C-suite. So there are all of these things that, to me, relate to the ultimate issue of sexual harassment that this movement is shining a light on. And we've made a lot of progress, but there's so much more progress to be made. And I think these conversations, whenever we have an opportunity to have them, allow us to continue to raise awareness about these issues and hopefully, start to change. Legislatively, we've seen some changes happen, and I think the culture, changing the culture that exists in some of these workplaces.
There's been so much positive momentum in conversations through this movement, but there also has been a lot of negativity in it.
Yeah, there's been backlash. Some people say it's gone too far. It's not fair. What about the due process of the men? And I'm sensitive to a point to some of those points that people were making. But the reality is this is a real issue. And we thought 25 years ago when Anita Hill testified on live TV during the Clarence Thomas Senate confirmation hearings that we were going to make huge changes. And if you look at what happened over the last 25 years, we haven't moved the needle that far. So
A little bit.
yeah, we've moved it a little,
bit.
but there's still so much. I mean, the fact that we still have to have equal pay day, that's just mind-boggling to me that you and I, equally qualified, I heard you talk about all of your degrees, so you and I have all of these degrees, that we can go into the workplace and you can make more money than me just because of your gender. Not because of your skills, qualification, or education, but just because of some of these entrenched negative stereotypes. Oh, he's a man, he's got a family to support. As if I don't have a family to support. So those are some of the stereotypes that we're still trying to break through in this country.
I want to thank you so much, first of all, for sharing that, but also for all the work that you've done for civil rights. Just incredible. Deeply grateful for you, to you for that. And I think there are a lot of men, of course, that they deeply and authentically want to support women in this, and I know I do. I've got a mom, I've got a sister. All my best friends are women. It's just the way I've always rolled. And I want to sort of ask you about that. Like, how can men, whether they're in the corporate space or not, support women in this movement without being
love them, by the way.
No, and that's a great question, and I love that question, Rob, because when I was talking to those CEOs, a guy stood up. He says, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm a card-carrying feminist. I love my mom, I love my sisters, and what can I do?" And here's what I told him, and I'll tell you. You often are going to be in those rooms. You're going to be in those C-suites. You're going to be in those important conversations that take place around hiring, around promotion, and retention of women. And that's where we need your voice. We need you when they're saying, well, if you're pregnant in this workplace, I don't know if this is a good place for you to work. We need you to pipe up and say, oh, wait a minute. Being pregnant doesn't make someone, unqualified to be in this job. And to the contrary, no, we want women who have kids in this workplace because moms have unique points of views and they can help enrich the culture in this workplace. So those are the things that men can do instantly because oftentimes we won't be in those rooms. We won't be at the table when those decisions are being made. But when you're there and your peers are there, your colleagues, your boys are there, we need them piping up saying, no, this isn't fair to the women. And we need to make sure they're getting paid the same, they're getting the same promotional opportunities, and that this workplace reflects, the demographics of this country and the power that women have.
What can we, as women, do, Areva, to help the men like Rob?
Beat him over the head.
He's worked my whole life. This is what happens.
I think these conversations, I think these are important conversations that we as women have to have with our brothers, with our fathers, with the men in our lives, because I do know a lot of men care deeply about these issues and they do want to do something, but they don't know exactly what to do. So I think we as women can encourage them. If your co-worker, your co-worker is you're getting all the plum assignments and you're watching her, get the dog assignments. What are you doing to say to the supervisor, Mary, I got, the last 5 trips to Paris. And Mary's going to like Champaign, Illinois. So I'm like, what's up with that? Why is Mary going to Boise and I'm going to Paris? You know, last I checked, we had the same job. So it's sometimes just making the point that should be obvious, that's not so obvious, just making that point. I think it's a really simple thing.
So where can people find you?
You can find me all over social at Areva Martin. You can find my book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores throughout this country. It's everywhere. It was released on March 20th, and I'm so excited. It's already hit several bestsellers list. And like I said, I'm on this tour. I'm headed to New York. Monday, I'll be with the United Way of New York City and the Coach store at Columbus Circle doing an event with about 250 rainmakers and influencers in New York. We're going to be talking about women and branding and how women can, you know, continue to elevate their voices. So that's my next stop. Is New York.
Great. Well, such important work. For sure, always, and just really a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank
so
you,
nice,
guys.
Thank you for helping us
Yeah,
make
thank you
it
so
rain.
much. That's
Keep making it rain. Keep it raining.
So when we
Keep
come
it
back, you guys
raining.
want to talk to one man about composing music right here in Los Angeles and what that's like. So excited to hear his story. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.